All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to yet another HODLNOTS weekly warm-up. I'm John,
Vicky.
and it is the news at 9 a.m. UTC. Let's get into some of the crypto headlines of the last few days. Uptober starts with the US shutdown. So Bitcoin surged in October so far, defying a US government shutdown that has left altcoin exchange traded funds, ETFs, those applications in limbo. But meanwhile, the markets have welcomed the arrival of the traditional Uptober. And the headlines elsewhere, however, were dominated by these regulatory battles and policy experiments. So while the US government has been in shutdown and a few other things have been stagnated, we've seen a nice little spike in the markets in the last few days. Vicky, over to you.
Yeah, and that's what this next story is about too, because Bitcoin exploded to a fresh all-time high. Woohoo! So following a turbulent end to September, which we all saw, Bitcoin has kicked off Uptober in style, surging more than $11,000 since the beginning of the month. It surpassed the milestone of 125,000 and reached a new all-time high of approximately 125,500 before slightly retracing to its current value of almost 123 at the moment. So the impressive rally could be attributed to several bullish factors, including the upwards momentum that persists in October, which is basically what's happening now, hopefully, and also the declining supply of Bitcoin stored on crypto exchanges. So recently, a number of coins held on the platforms and on the exchanges plummeted to a 7-year low of less than 2.5 million, signaling that investors are not currently focused on profit taking, but instead are moving their holdings back to the self-custody methods, a trend that reduces immediate selling pressure. So October is started off with a bang, which is fantastic.
Very cool to see lots of excitement around that. Long may it continue. And obviously, we'd like to see those altcoins move up as well. Now, we're heading over to the UK because we know that we have a couple of members within our communities who are in the UK and have been struggling somewhat with access to exchanges. Now, while this doesn't talk about the actual exchange side of things, this is a good step in the right direction. So, companies are weighing in as the United Kingdom prepares to reverse crypto ETN bans. Now, an ETN, for those of you who don't know, is a crypto is exchange traded notes. And we're going to get into that now. So, the UK will lift a ban on specific crypto exchange traded products, whether they be funds and notes and various other things, but specifically notes at the moment, starting next week. But the regulator said the framework would need to be updated before even considering ETFs. So the UK's Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, is set to soon reverse a ban on crypto exchange traded notes for retail investors that was enacted in 2019. So we might get into this at some point, the differences between ETNs, CFDs, ETFs, etc., etc. However, this is a great start because a number of exchanges such as Bitwise and a few others in the UK are very bullish around this because while BlackRock, which we all know very well, is also trying to file for some of the ETF action over in the UK. This is a start. It's a good start for some of these changes and these regulations have been put in place since 2019. And soon the UK, amongst in a whole bunch of other countries, will start to see access for retail, which is you and I, with exchange traded products. And again, we'll keep you guys updated around that story going forward. Vicky.
Yeah, and that goes very nicely into this next story because we're going to talk about US spot Bitcoin ETFs because they have seen massive weekly inflows lately. So, US spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds, which are the ETFs, flows had a huge week Whopping US 3.23 billion in net inflows entered the funds over the 5 trading days last week. This means that the US funds now hold 6.3% of all Bitcoin, which is about 1,325,878 Bitcoin. And that's a current value of $163 billion. So BlackRock alone accounts for about 3.68% of all Bitcoin, holding 773,761 worth about 95 billion. And the fund is one of the fastest growing ETFs in history. And it also shows that the US is dominating the Bitcoin ETF market. So US ETFs account for 89% of the ETFs out there. So outside the US, Canada, and Switzerland are among the largest holders, although still dwarfed by their American counterparts. So as we keep mentioning, the US actually has finding different ways to buy crypto because they have been hobbled. So good for them. And like I said the other week, imagine when they're able to trade, how that's going to boom. So let's cross our fingers on that. But ETFs, booming.
Absolutely. And while Canada and Switzerland are not far behind, I think a lot more countries will grant access to these various institutions that want to file for these ETFs. Now, we have mentioned previously as well that there have been a whole bunch of ETFs that are lined up, actually, last week's episode. And because of what's been happening in the US, so I think it's the opportunity for a lot of other global countries to start playing a little bit of catch up if they can. Now, staying with the US, if you're in New York, or in New York State at least, and you're a Bitcoin miner, Brazil wants you. So, Brazilian energy companies are courting miners to soak up excess power in Brazil as lawmakers in New York push for new taxes that could drive the Bitcoin mining industry out of the state. So, crypto miners are finding a surprise welcome in Brazil, where energy firms see them as a solution to a chronic oversupply of energy. According to Reuters, at least a half a dozen projects are under negotiation as some local plants report up to 70% of excess output. Um, Now, in Nigeria, Laos has taken, sorry, not Nigeria, but in Laos itself, Laos has taken a similar approach, luring miners with hydropower in a bid to service the debt from the very dams that left the country oversupplied with electricity. So, again, if you're in New York and in that state, and you are a Bitcoin miner. And I'm sure as some other states, maybe in the US, also start to impose new taxes, higher taxes, there are plenty of other countries out there that have an oversupply of electricity. Send some to South Africa. Thank you very much. But in a sense, this would be a good deal for those who are in Bitcoin mining. As some of you might know, Bitcoin mining does use a fair bit of energy, electricity, and there are countries out there with an oversupply. So finding balance and finding where that niche is. Vicky.
Yeah, definitely not South Africa. So you guys need to go to Brazil, apparently. So there you go. But back to the US, and because the US is actually, there's lots of stories coming out of the US. And this is another one. So the USDT leads a $3 billion stablecoin surge among record-breaking Q3 crypto activities. And one of the reasons for this is in the US. So the total market capitalization of stablecoins has exceeded 300 billion for the first time in history this week. Now, two of the reasons probably is the Genius Act, which we've talked about before, and the SEC accounting guidance. They've significantly boosted confidence in stablecoins. This in turn drove institutional and retail adoption in 2025. So USDT remains the dominant stablecoin as it accounts for about 58% of the market with a valuation of 176 billion. Circle's USDC follows the market capitalization of more than 74 billion, while USDE, which we don't really hear about a lot, is the third largest yield-bearing stablecoin and holds 14 billion. So the milestone indicates the growing prominence of stablecoins in the broader cryptocurrency ecosystem and comes amidst market-wide recovery after a volatile week. So that's great news for stable coins too, and the US is leading that as well.
Yeah, we have covered a story in the past couple of weeks around Bolivia and Venezuela as they actually are turning to what they call as Binance tokens, which are not Binance BNB tokens at all, but actually USDT. And this is part of the reason why when we teach in our live courses, why we focus on USDT, not because it's the largest yield-bearing stable coin out there, but because so many of the coins that we trade are USDT paired, and it allows us great opportunities to trade those. Now, speaking of not Binance tokens or coins, but actually BNB itself, we did a story about 2 or 3 weeks back where we were talking about the top 10 performing networks in the world, and that was on the HODLNOTS Happy Hour Hangout as well. But BNB has crushed Solana to reclaim first spot in active addresses. So at one point, Solana had 57 million odd active addresses, and BNB was a little bit behind. But BNB has now reclaimed that top spot in September, going into October, as the leading blockchain by active addresses after recording 52.5 million users. This surge enabled it to surpass Near Protocol's 51.8 and Solana's 45.8 million. So you can see things have been shuffling around in such a short period. And this movement with the reclaiming of that top spot has marked the first time since it was dethroned in August of 2024. Now, interestingly, BNB Chain has surpassed Solana in terms of the daily chain fees as well, and maintained that lead for 3 consecutive days last month of September. But that renewed momentum on BNB Chain is largely attributed to the hype that's been surrounding Aster, or Aster DEX, which has sparked massive user engagement and boosted on-chain activity across the ecosystem. So we see these large chains competing with each other, which is a good thing, ladies and gents. Competition is healthy. If it drives the price for fees and etc. down, we're all too happy with that as we make our trades, whether it be through DEXs or DEXs, decentralized exchanges, or the centralized exchanges themselves as well. Competition is healthy. So we'll keep an eye on that. But these are the largest chains, at least BNB Chain and Solana. We know that Ethereum, Base, and even Bitcoin itself have a lot to do in terms of keeping up with these young guns. Back to you, Vicky.
Yeah, it is healthy competition. And we talked about a lot of the ecosystems and the blockchains and also wallets. And this is a follow-up story from, I think, last week, actually, or 2 weeks ago, maybe. It was a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned that MetaMask could be launching its own token called Mask, M-A-S-K. And MetaMask is now gearing up for a major Mask token airdrop with a rewards point system launch, which is really interesting. So not only are they going to launch a token, they're going to have rewards basically for using things in your MetaMask. So a lot of us use MetaMask. And so Consensus's Web3 wallet is set to introduce a rewards program system for on-chain activities. So many people suggest the points may also be linked to future Mask token airdrops. So in quite a fresh development, a new rewards page basically popped up on the MetaMask dashboard this week. And this really kind of signals that a loyalty style point system is close to launch. So users will soon be able to earn points for activities like swapping tokens or bridging between different blockchains. Although really they haven't announced what you need to do to make that yet. So basically, after you make these swaps and earn these points, you will be later be able to exchange these points for token rewards, partner incentives, or special perks. So this shows the wallet's effort to increase user engagement before the release of their Mask token. So according to the company, the rewards initiative is scheduled for October 2025, which is now. So everyone that uses MetaMask, you can go and see that new rewards page. There's not a lot about it, but it's actually interesting because why not earn something for using your mask or your MetaMask anyway? So I think that's a bit of fun.
Absolutely. It sounds a little like a BTF token in terms of holding in your various wallets and those different tiers, you get rewarded for doing that. And then, who knows? BTF token might go that way as well with rewards and point systems as well for utilizing that. But for the moment, it's MetaMask, and that's quite exciting. MetaMask has had some great updates in the last while because it used to be Ethereum and BNB chain, and now they've adopted a whole bunch more as well. So lots of very good things, a lot of adaptations and evolution around MetaMask as well. Very exciting to see. Great story. Thanks. Now, also talking about wallets, let's head on over to Coinbase, but not specifically Coinbase. Some of you don't like iPhones, and some of you using Samsung. Now, Samsung itself, one of the world's global leaders in cell phone production, amongst other things as well, are expanding their Coinbase integration with direct crypto purchases in the Galaxy Wallet. So, Samsung Wallet and Coinbase aim to provide easier access to cryptocurrency for 75 million United States Galaxy users, with a global rollout planned for the future. Maybe I should swap phones from an iPhone to Samsung. Consumer electronics giant Samsung has expanded its partnership with cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase, allowing its Galaxy smartphone users to buy crypto directly through its native Samsung wallet. In the first phase, about 75 million Galaxy users or Galaxy Wallet users in the US will gain access to Coinbase One, a subscription service that offers zero trading free fees, higher staking reward, and account protection for lost funds due to unauthorized access. Coinbase announced on Friday that the two companies aim to expand access to more Galaxy smartphone users worldwide, potentially bringing a significant influx of new mainstream investors to the crypto market, given that, you know, around the world there are over 1 billion active global Galaxy Wallet users. That is huge. All right. So we know that Apple is also trying to get up there as well, but this partnership between Samsung and Coinbase sounds very promising, not just for the initial 75 million in the US, but for that 1 billion users worldwide. And ladies and gents, you know what that means. Global adoption, accessibility, ease of all of that will introduce more money into the crypto space, challenging that current all-time high of that market cap for crypto. And we know what happens with that. As more people come in, more money comes in, more the demand grows for Bitcoin, which pushes its price up, which will then help drive the crypto market as well. So some very bullish crypto headlines over this section so far. But let's move away from the crypto headlines for the moment and talk a little bit about that thing up there.
Yeah, the fear and greed index, and whoo, it's gone whoo over the one side. So as we've seen, Bitcoin price continued its strong rally, and really traders are embracing this kind of risk on sentiment. Let's risk everything. So the sentiment has been rising in the fear and greed index, and it's moved from a low of 39 last month. It went to 39. It's rocketed to 71, which is way into the greed part now. So it's interesting. And one of the reasons for that is, I'm sure, the Bitcoin rally, which John is going to show you in a minute with his Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin chart. So we're going to really have to see what's in store. And those of you that did watch the Happy Hour Hangout know Greer, feed and Greer, no, greed and fear index, what that means. Should you be greedy? Should you be fearful and start selling? I don't know. Well, and the charts will show us. So, John, let's see what the chart shows us.
Absolutely. Let's get into it, ladies and gents. Fear and greed. It is one indicator of what the market sentiment is, but again, you should be able to read the charts of Bitcoin and a bunch of other things as well, such as dominance. If you don't know what all of this means, of course, we do have courses available for you, and Vicky will be announcing some of those exciting ones. But for the moment, let's just look at what's happening at the market. You might see all of these kind of indicators and be like, "Oh, John, I have no idea what I'm looking at. It looks like Bitcoin's price is going up." Yes, we did hit a temporary high of 125,708, at least on Binance. We know that on Coinbase and Bitstamp, they were slightly different, but very close. Still, all-time high. And things are still looking fairly good at the moment if we look at what's happening with Bitcoin. I think that we may see a little bit of sideways action over the next day or two. We'd love to see this actually start to push up. Sorry, apologies, that's on the 4 hour. Let's have a look at what the day chart is. Yes, absolutely. It is still testing. You can see there's still a fair bit of area where it's difficult to get past, but I think looking at that 4 hour progress sideways a little, but we may still push. Things are still looking fairly bullish. A few things have flipped over to the green. A lot of the other indicators really showing us that things are starting to look up a little. I think that if we manage to break past quite clearly all of this resistance, still sitting 124, 125,000, I think we may start to see Bitcoin push really nicely. At the moment, it's still in this tentative stage. Where the market is a little like, "Ooh, okay, well, where's next? We've never been higher than this before." So having a quick look at some of these, you can see some really nice movement by a lot of the altcoins. But really, what is that? How is that influence? How are these runs of Bitcoin? Bitcoin and of the altcoins. How is that dictated? And I think that's a lot to do with that next thing we're going to look at, and that's Bitcoin dominance. So I envisage that unless Bitcoin dominance starts dropping, I think we're probably going to see a little bit of sustained movement up and around this area. Nothing is really showing or shouting like, oh, this is definitely going to fly. But we are looking at some heavy resistance still. I think we're going to need to close above 150, sorry, 120, 150, sure, 125,000. We're going to need to see a whole day candle close up and above here. Let's have a look at what Bitcoin dominance is actually telling us around that. So, as mentioned before, and let's just keep this a little simple, what we need to start to see is a little bit of more of a push up here. What does this mean, Bitcoin dominance? Meaning the money flowing into the crypto space, how much of it is dominated by Bitcoin versus all of the other altcoins. And at the moment, and we've been speaking about this for quite some time, I don't mind Bitcoin pushing up or Bitcoin dominance pushing up to about 60% thereabouts so that we can get that cash coming into Bitcoin, which helps push that market up or Bitcoin at least, since a lot of coins start to rise up behind it as well. And then if that pushes up and Bitcoin pushes up and then goes sideways, if Bitcoin price can go sideways, breaking parts at 125,000, and then this starts to drop, meaning money starts flowing into the altcoins, and Bitcoin still stays stable, we're going to start to see these guys, all of these guys, everything from Solana and Ethereum, etc., to all of these other, this is at least the ones on Binance, we're going to start to see that really start to fly. So this can go up. Bitcoin can then itself go sideways after closing 125,000. When this starts dropping, altcoins are going to fly, and we're going to see some really, maybe some new all-time highs for Ethereum, and we're going to start to see some other nice big pushes by some of the other coins as well. Okay. So that's what we're looking at in terms of Bitcoin. Yeah, let's just hope and pray that it closes up above 125,000, breaks past, smashes through that resistance. Bitcoin dominance can then start to go sideways and drop as long as Bitcoin stays stable, and we'll start to see those altcoins running. All right, speaking about running, and there's a lot of action happening every week. Vicky, tell us what's happening everywhere.
Yeah, in the lodge. So this week kicks off in the lodge with our new schedule change schedule of last week. So whereby the self-paced course takers are busy with, who are busy with chapters 1 to 3, will have their calls on Mondays instead of Tuesdays. So we started that last week, and we're going to continue it now for a while, quite a while. Now, the calls will continue this week after that with Wendy's normal lodge call on Tuesday at 8 a.m. UTC. And all the lodge members can jump on and ask questions. Now, this week it is, though, going to be hosted by this guy over there. Which way am I pointing? That guy over there. So it's always a treat. And it's actually a great opportunity to talk timeframes, which is our favorite subject, really. And really the answer to every question you could possibly ask. So from now on, I say it in the course all the time, the answer to all your questions is timeframes. So John loves timeframes. So if you can jump on that lodge call, 8 a.m. UTC on Tuesday. And then the other announcement is there is no HODL Fire call this week. So the reason for that is because The HODL Fire course is launching this week. So this week, Wednesday and Friday, because it is a 2-day course. It's not a whole day, so it's about 4 hours each day. We are launching our HODL Fire course. Yay! And there's already people signed up. So that's going to be so exciting. So that's why there's no HODL Fire call this week, because the calls will be changing. We've hinted on how they're going to be changing. So basically the indicator calls, there are going to be a bit less of those, but the people that do the course have the opportunity to have a few more. So we do have a new schedule for both, and we will talk about that on the course. So that's really exciting. It's launching Wednesday. Again, shout out to, there's a couple of people here that have already signed up. So we're really excited for that. And that'll be Wednesday. And you have a hand up.
Yes, ladies and gents, sorry, just a quick reminder, I couldn't play any sound effects around that, is that you literally have 2.5 hours, almost 2 hours and 33 minutes in which to still enter where you can win a spot in the hot seat, and that is on the HODL Fire course. That's worth $399. Just FYI, you have that opportunity. The link is on HODLNOTS socials. It's in the main channel on Telegram. It's in the HODLNOTS channels, etc., etc. Jump in there, get involved. Otherwise, you can win some great HODL Fire subscriptions as well. Just a quick reminder. Thanks, Vicky. Back to you.
Yeah, no, not a problem at all. So that is exciting. And then other than that, the week continues on Wednesday at 8 p.m. UTC with the first of our HODL dot calls. So those are for people that are taking a 3M challenge. And it continues on Thursday with the second of our HODL dot calls at 8 a.m. UTC. So that's normal. And then lastly, on Thursday, we will always end with our self-paced course for those on chapter 4 onwards, and that's at 12 p.m. UTC. And that ends the week. So it's a busy week again. It's an exciting week because of the HODL Fire course. So looking forward to doing that very much. And of course, everything else. So there you go.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thanks so much. There has been a question, of course, ladies and gents. While this is a broadcast, we don't mind the odd question as well. Is what time will the course start for the HODL Fire course for this week, at least? Bear in mind that the HODL Fire course, we are catering to two major time zones, and that will be for those in the Western Hemisphere, i.e., the States and Canada, as well as Europe and Central Africa time. And then the other one will be for the Eastern Hemisphere, and that's going to be anyone in New Zealand, Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, etc., all the way back to the middle to Europe and Central African time as well. This HODL Fire course for this week at least. The next one's only in November again. This one is catering to those in the Eastern Hemisphere. So that's going to be for those again in Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Singapore, anywhere else from there, all the way over to Europe and South Africa and Central African time as well. And that is starting at 7 a.m. UTC. All right, so just bear that in mind. For those of you considering, for those, and all the information actually is in the product description, and that is down in the chat, not the Q&A section, ladies and gents. We've just dropped it in there. For those of you who are keen, go check out bitcointough.com and search for the HODL Fire course. Good question. Thank you for asking.
Big question. And actually, that we have one person join that is in the US, and he or she will be getting up at 3 in the morning because they're so excited. So good for you. Love seeing that. So you can jump on any of the calls. It's just that that's the time. So yeah, we'll be seeing you then.
Absolutely. So to bear in mind that while we are trying to cater to those different time zones, you are welcome to join any of the courses, even if it's 3 in the morning. We can understand why there's been a lot of excitement, a lot of hype around this course that's been in development for some time, but it's going to be a great one. Now, speaking about excitement, ooh, we're back into the second week. Sorry, not the second week, the second HODL Fire course. And this is a whole separate entity, something we've been running for the last 5 weeks. This is the fifth week of that second contest. And we've had a couple of letters. All right. The first letter was that one. Okay, it's one that's been around even in the first contest. So what letter is that? Come on, fairly simple. Second letter.
Ugh. Well, is that the right way?
I did the other way.
I mean, oops. Oops. Shh. I'll cut that out of the video. So, um, mm. No, I got to. Wait a minute.
All right, I'll do it for you. It's fine. No one's laughing at
There we
us. They're
go.
laughing with us. All right, it's that one, right?
There's
That's
two
the
of
second
those
heading.
actually. There's
Sorry?
two of those. There's two of
Ooh,
those letters.
there were two
Hmm.
of these. Yes. All right. So
Two
we've
of
got two of
those.
those. And one of the others, we had one
Oh
of,
gosh, the other one is hard to do. Yeah, that was this one.
okay.
Okay. Then this week's is, I guess, like this. Well, it's like this, but no point at the end.
So it's
So it's
rounded
more
on the
round.
bottom.
It's rounded. Hmm. It's rounded.
Okay. There
Yeah.
we go.
Mhm.
Mm. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. If you have any guesses, you can pop it in now because you stand the chance. You should have this absolute pleasure. We'll get into more of those. If you have any questions around the upcoming HODL Fire course, please do drop them in the lodge. If you're still unsure, you can drop a support ticket. Otherwise, hello@hodlnots.com. Or just again, as we mentioned, check out that chat function's got the chat down the bottom of this call. It's got all the details around the course. So any questions you might have around that. Any guesses for what the word might be? So you've got 5 letters so far. It should be fairly simple. Again, if you need any sort of assistance, do drop a question in the lodge. We'll be happy to guide you there. All right. That said, ladies and gents, thank you very much for joining the slightly extended version of the HODLNOTS Weekly warm up. We have you. Hope you have an amazing week, and Vicky is going to kind of leave us with the thought for the week ahead.
Yes. Okay. So over the years now, let's just say, so someone has taught me that when you're speaking to people, words are very important, the words that you choose. So, for instance, saying have a nice day sounds pleasant and friendly, doesn't it? But saying enjoy the next 24 hours, maybe not so much. So, when you are speaking to people, choose your words carefully.
We hope you all have an enjoyable week. Live
Have
long
a
and
good
prosper.
24 hours. Have a good, how many hours is that in a week?
I can't do the math. We'll see some of you on those live calls. Don't forget at 8 a.m. UTC in the lodge tomorrow. I'll be entertaining, answering all of your questions around timeframes. We'll see you on the live Huddle Fire course. Bear in mind that we will be dropping the announcement of those winners in the next couple of hours once the contest is closed. Go and enter quickly as possible. We'll catch you guys next week live. Actually, we won't catch you next week live. Here's a major announcement. We will not be seeing you next week, Monday. I unfortunately am away doing a burn, a prescribed fire burn. I can't leave Vicky all on her own to do this and manage you lot. We will catch you in the following week, so in 2 weeks' time. But in the meantime, there are plenty of other live calls. Until then, ciao, ciao.